A funny thing happened on the way to the archive. My sister and I were brought up in Briarcliff. Margaret lives in Spain now, but I still live 2 fields away from where we used to live as children. Recently, I wrote a piece about VE Day in 1945, about gangs of children playing war games. And whilst in lockdown, I explored uploading it to a podcast and YouTube. Margaret saw the piece and liked it, and she wants us to write about bonfire nights we enjoyed as children for another piece of writing, or podcast episode, should I say more accurately. Then I remembered the Lancashire Archive and their bank of photos and newspaper articles about all aspects of Lancashire life, and it struck me that there may be photographs of various bonfire nights across the county which we could incorporate into our episode in some way. I knew too that the archive people were calling on the general public to write pieces that evoked recollections and sort of brought the pictures and items in their collections to life. So last night, I interrogated the database for information and indeed inspiration. I started by putting the word bonfires in the search box, but this didn't give me any leads. So next I did a location search under the word Briarcliff. Well, there were lots of pictures, but mostly of the Queen Street Mill and its magnificent steam power engine, named Peace. But unfortunately, no bonfires. So my third search took me to Nelson, and the archive has 1,011 pictures of events and people from the town. I looked at them one by one. By the time I got to the 570th picture, you could have knocked me down with a feather. No, it wasn't a bonfire, but it was a picture of where I live now, but from the 1900s. Now it's Scarlet Cottage, but back then it was the Scarlet Arms, named after the man who led the Heavy Brigade in the Crimean War. Excuse me. These were facts I've always known about, but suddenly I remembered a tale my granddad used to tell me about walking up to the Scarlet Arms from his home in Halsike. Comparing when he died with various dates I could glean, I'm sure he must have been very young to be drinking ale, because they say the last licence was taken in the pub around about 1925, which would only just make him old enough to have a beer. But his tale was not about the beer, really, but also about the various games, pub games, they used to play, and for money. When he was alive in his later years, he and I used to put a knock on, as they said, on the domino table in the commercial pub in Halsike. The house rules were that we always played with a 9 set, and each game we picked up 7 dominoes. Then it was best of 3, and the winning partnerships got 20p from the losers and stayed on the table until knocked off. I got the feeling, though, that a lot more money changed hands in the old Scarlet Arms, but Grandad would never tell me the whole truth of it. My husband's family began to live in the old building after the war, and slowly renovations were undertaken. Since then, the cottage has always been occupied by the family. Indeed, I have lived there over 10 years now myself. Maybe I should ask the archive if they have room for some more modern pictures of the building, and the garden, of course, to compare with the old shot of the Scarlet Arms in the archive. My sister Margaret is going to Skype me tomorrow re our bonfire night project, so I'd better in the meantime let sleeping dogs lie about the old pub. Nonetheless, many thanks, Lancashire Archive, for helping me stumble across some lovely memories.